over in St. Lucie County because of one of the tornadoes, and these things are really tough. And we did see which is standard with these hurricanes, but you saw the tornadoes, and they did do some significant damage, even all the way over on the east coast of Florida. We've also been able to tour. We did a driving tour of Siesta Key, was able to see some of the damage that was out there. Also saw what appeared to me to be some of the leftover debris from Helene that was, out in the street or whatnot. So we got a sense of what's going on there. Then, of course, here we're here looking. I mean, there's damage behind me with some of these. Honestly, for the mobile home stuff, I thought there would be more roofs. So some of these mobile homes, I mean, they've done a lot better in Florida over the years. We flew in over a number of the communities as well. There were definitely some roofs that were really bad, but then there were others that did really well. Another thing I think I can say just by doing our tour with like Siesta Key, I mean, our buildings that were built, in the last 20, 30 years, I mean, they did very well. They look good. There was obviously damage. There were trees. Some of the structures were damaged, but you have some of those newer homes that have been built with a more updated building code. They seem to fare very well. So we'll see as the damage assessments come in and as the reports. Now we have at the state level, we're continuing supporting search and rescue operations. As of this afternoon, at least 340 individuals and 49 pets have been rescued. Florida National Guard, Florida law enforcement, and urban search and rescue teams are continuing to work throughout the day. We've got a lot of rescue craft operational. Hundreds of rescuers are engaged in over 125 missions in 26 counties. Some of that's in conjunction with the local law enforcement and fire and other first responders. I know a lot of the sheriffs are doing a lot of good work. This storm came in the way it did. The dirty side of the storm was kind of Sarasota, Charlotte area, and then the northern side of the storm, it actually, instead of doing storm surge into Tampa Bay, it sucked it out, but the northern side of the storm had a lot of precipitation. I mean, they were just getting water dumped on them. So whereas Helene created a lot of storm surge in that part of the state, this one didn't do that there, but it created like inland flooding. And you're going to, so you see that in Pinellas and Hillsborough counties. You also got an awful lot of water dumped in the center and northern parts of the state on the northern side of the storm. So we're going to continue to respond for those as appropriate. Power. So as of the 3 p.m. update, we've got 3.2 million that are without power, 3.2 million accounts throughout the state of Florida. Since the storm hit, 880,000 have been restored. So we've basically had a storm that's had over 4 million power outages. I think that's probably similar to what we saw with Hurricanes Irma and Hurricanes Ian. And I know but on this one, we have 50,000 linemen. We had probably 40-some thousand for Ian. I don't think they had them presaged for Irma, but we've got over 50,000 linemen. So they are hard at work. I know this area is FPL. I know they're planning a big push. So we feel very confident that those folks are working very hard, and you're going to see some good stuff here in the ensuing time period. Sarasota County, where we are now, is about 66% out as we speak. Prior to landfall here in Sarasota, we staged thousands of sandbags, 9 high-water vehicles, 3 high-wheeled vehicles for search and rescue, 12 emergency sat phones, 4 urban search and rescue teams, and 2 swiftwater teams. And now we are continuing to help with 25 additional generators, 3 swamp buggies, FWC search and rescue boats, 3 mobile command vehicles, 4 ambulance strike teams, 4,000 gallons of diesel, 4,000 gallons of regular unleaded, 5 helicopters, additional Starlinks, 20 diesel trash pumps, and additional supplies like tarps, fans, and dehumidifiers. Cut and toss began at first light by the Florida Department of Transportation. We have 328 crews active in the field, over 350 pieces of heavy equipment, 150 bridge inspectors were dispatched immediately, and over 620 bridges have already been inspected. As I said in my executive order, for Hurricane Milton, local authorities must allow residents back to their homes once the roadways are deemed safe. In Tampa, the Sunshine Skyway, Gandy, Howard Franklin, and Courtney Campbell causeways have all been inspected, cleared, and they are open for traffic. Bridges are being opened as soon as state inspections are complete. There are a couple bridges throughout other parts of the state where they are looking at different issues. I-4, I-75, Alligator Alley are all clear and they're all open. US 1 and A1A have been cleared with the exception of A1A at Matanzas Avenue and Butler Beach. That's over on the other coast. Assessing a few areas where damage has occurred along roadways and bridges, such as washouts and flooding. That is continuing to go. There have been 5,000 traffic signals. 280 signals in the state are not currently operational. They're working to deploy generators to get those back up. If you come to a traffic light that is out, you treat it like a four-way stop. So just remember, that's how people are going to do. So if you're going, you got to stop, look like you would on a stop sign. There are many schools closed today, but we're working with the Department of Education to have schools resume as quickly as possible across the state, and that's going to be a little bit different depending on how you were affected by the storm. But I think the majority of those school districts that were closed probably had minimal to no impacts from the storm and should be able to resume operations very quickly. If you want to look to see what your school district's plans are, you can go to fldoe.org/storm info. Now, please remember, as you survey damage and you clean up, be cautious of any downed power lines. They can be deadly. Do not touch them and stay away from any debris that may be tangled within the power lines. Be careful of standing water. You know, we are Siesta Key. I was able to see. I mean, there's some. It's gone down, but there is some. There's going to be some inland flooding. Just be very careful when you're talking about standing water. There could be power lines down in there. There could be other hazards, and that could cause major problems. Be careful when you use ladders. We always have injuries and sometimes even fatalities based on the use of ladders. We've got a lot of elderly residents. We have different groups that will be in Florida that will help you with some of these things. These charity groups, these church groups, they go in to help people with their homes and help clean up debris. So utilize that. Don't put yourself at risk. If you operate a generator, do not operate your generator inside your home. It must be operated outside your home. We still have Visit Florida's emergency accommodation modules on Expedia and Priceline available if people need temporary shelter. For another 2 weeks, we have extended the Hope Florida line. So that's going to be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you need help or you need some resources, like maybe helping hand with some things around your house or maybe some things with some supplies, you know, we've got all these organizations that come to help in the subsequent to these storms. They're all plugged into Hope Florida. So you can call 1-833-GET-HOPE, 1-833-GET-HOPE, and Activate Hope is the disaster arm for Hope Florida, and that is up and running. We also have small business loans available. So we have $50 million. It's interest-free, very forgiving payment options. So if you need cash as a business, you can apply for up to $50,000. If you're agriculture and aquaculture, you have up to $100,000, and if you're citrus and cattle, you have up to $150,000. So please take advantage if you want. If you want to apply for that, you go to floridajobs.org/EBL. We also are accepting donations for the Florida Disaster Fund. This is a charitable, tax-deductible donation. 100% of the proceeds go to helping victims of both Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton. And so if you want to do that, you can go to floridadisasterfund.org, floridadisasterfund.org. I want to thank everybody who's worked really hard. We're still assessing the damage from this storm. I mean, I think clearly just going around that there was damage from it. I think in some areas, in terms of what was being predicted, some of the worst case scenarios did not come to pass, certainly in terms of some of the storm surge people were predicting perhaps in the Tampa Bay area. The storm did weaken as it made landfall, and so whereas it was churning ferociously off the Yucatan Peninsula, by the time it made it to the coast of Florida, those winds were a little bit tamer. Still enough to do a lot of damage, but in terms of our assessments and being able to bounce back, I feel confident we're going to do that as a state. This power restoration effort is underway by all the major utilities. They've had the people ready, and they know that this is something that's really important. So you've got a lot of people working on that. We're very confident on reopening the ports like Tampa to make sure that fuel is continuing to flow. We have a lot of fuel in reserve in the state if we need to fill any gaps, but I'm confident we're going to be able to have an adequate amount of fuel delivered to the gas stations one way or another. If we need to use Florida Highway Patrol to help rush the trucks there, then we'll do that. But we should be in pretty good shape as far as that goes. So I want to thank everybody that's been involved. And we'll be putting out information about things like points of distribution for food and water. We're taking some of those inputs from some of the counties. I mean, some people said before the storm they wanted pods. Maybe they don't need pods now, depending on what damage. But we do anticipate when the counties are ready, rolling out some of the pods and providing some of the resources in terms of food, water, and other supplies like tarps for people as they may need it. So, okay, Kevin Guthrie.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you for everything you do for communities like these to make our job much easier and much more successful. Before I get started, there's a lot of people here that I want to thank that are the partners of the State Emergency Response Team. And as I look around here from right to left, we've got the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, Florida Highway Patrol, the Florida National Guard, members of the federal and state USAR task forces that are in here, local sheriff's offices. These men and women, went through the storm to get to you to be able to help you. And we certainly appreciate everything that they do. Even though Hurricane Milton has exited the east coast of Florida, storm surge is still expected along the east coast. Major flooding continues along Hillsborough, St. Johns, and the Little Wekiva rivers, and water levels are forecast to continue rising, not going down. They're forecast to continue rising through those areas. Residents in these areas should continue to shelter in place until officials deem it safe to go outside. Roadways are flooded, and the potential for hazardous conditions with them still exists. Please do not walk or drive through them under any circumstances. 6 inches of moving water can knock a person over, and 1 foot of moving water can sweep you away in your vehicle. Accidents due to floodwaters are preventable. All you got to do is just stay out of them. Right now, our teams are in the field working in parallel over the next 72 hours to do 3 things. That is to search, secure, and stabilize the areas from getting any worse. As these search and rescue missions continue to respond, as we continue to respond to Milton, please do not go out and visit impacted areas. You are inhibiting first responders by doing so. Listen to local authorities for updates on when it is safe. If you are sheltered in place or you're now returning home and you are outside, one of the first things you should do is document your damages. Make sure that you take a picture of all 4 sides of the outside of your home. When you go inside, make sure you take pictures in each and every room and have a point of reference like an electrical socket or a doorknob. That gives us reference to know how high the water was inside your home if you indeed had water intrusion. If you have lost power and want to use a generator as a backup, please use it safely. Generator accidents are also 100% preventable. Make sure you put it on a flat, dry surface at least 20 feet away from all doors and windows. Make sure you wait 20 minutes when you refuel, and then keep a carbon monoxide detector in your home so that the fumes and odorless fumes can be deadly, and then you'll be able to be warned about those. If you are beginning your cleanup process, please ensure you are wearing the appropriate safety gear. But as the governor has already mentioned, we will send volunteer organizations into your communities that will help you clean this up. They will help you get trees off. They will help you do stuff with the roof and re-tarp them. You do not have to do that if you're on your own, if you're by yourself. If you have some physical capability that limits you in going up and down a ladder. All of those are preventable injuries. Just call us, 1-833-GET-HOPE. We will put you into the system, and we will get people to come to you and help you with that. Do not cut any lines. I cannot say this enough. Every disaster, we end up having somebody cut either a coax cable or a fiber optic cable. That is your lifeline to 911 services. Please do not cut lines. Let somebody else come in and do the cutting for you. If you see a dangerous situation, make sure you call your local authorities and report it so that they can come out and mitigate it. For assistance after the storm, for information, please call 1-800-342-3577. I'm sorry, that's a correction. 1-800-342-3557. Help is available in English, Spanish, and Haitian Creole. You can always visit floridadisaster.org/updates for more information in real time. The best way to follow us and get those updates is follow us on X and Instagram at FLSERT and on Facebook at FDM for, again, real-time updates. Governor, thank you so much. Appreciate your cooperation and assistance.
Thank you, Governor, and good afternoon, everybody. First, I just want to express my deepest sympathy to everybody who has been impacted by these storms. I know many people have been impacted by not just Milton, but also Helene, and maybe some of you, even Debbie. These back-to-back storms are hard, and I know that there's been a loss of life. And when I brief the president and I give him updates, he continues to say, please make sure we're giving Floridians everything that they need. And so part of my reason for being here on the ground is to make sure I can understand what the impacts are. And as I've been able to go through Siesta Key this morning and see the impacts, talk to local leaders, talk to residents here, I can see the impacts. I heard the concerns. And one of those big concerns that I've heard continues to be the debris removal. The governor and I had a conversation about this pre-storm, and I assured him that we are going to be flexible in how we execute our authorities for those emergency debris removal measures that had to take place prior to the storm making landfall. And I will continue to make sure that we are bringing everything we need to support the Floridians in their response and their recovery from this event. When the governor asked for a pre-landfall emergency declaration, the president quickly approved that, and it gave us the ability to employ all of our search and rescue teams that we brought into the area, as well as some of our ambulances to support some of the response operations through the evening. We have additional resources that are staged throughout the state, and we'll continue to work with Director Guthrie on what his needs are and support him where he needs us the most. What I will say to close on this is just, again, my heart goes out to everybody that's been impacted. We have resources here. We are integrated really well with the state partners, Director Guthrie and his team. I will continue to provide the governor any resources that he needs. And just know that FEMA and the rest of the federal family will be here to support you throughout this recovery. Thank you.
Also, just want to make clear again, as we're in this phase of getting our legs underneath us, assessing the damage, helping with rescues, stabilizing, getting people back on their feet, there may be opportunities that some people think they can take advantage of. I'm warning you, don't do that. If you loot, you will be held accountable. If you're doing things that violate the law, if you're going to try to take advantage of vulnerable people, we're going to throw the book at you. I mean, we even had some jackass chain a dog to a pole as the storm was coming. Florida Highway Patrol rescued the dog. It's now in Tallahassee. Honestly, it's a good dog, but I mean, it's traumatized from that. And so they're, we're watching over the dog now, but it's like, you see some of this stuff. And so as we see so much good and how people band together and respond and are out there with our first responders, people have been working around the clock since the beginning of the onset of the Helene emergency, nonstop for the last few weeks. You also see the flip side of that as you see some people who do a lot of really bad things. And so just know you're not going to get away with it. You will be held accountable one way or another. Okay, anybody have questions?
What's the plan for the cell service? A lot of people in Sarasota County don't have any cell service.
So we do know that Verizon did have some issues. We already made calls to Verizon. They are working desperately to get that back up and running. That was more of a Central Florida issue. This here is going to be more of an electric issue and getting the power back onto the actual towers. But simultaneously, we will be moving generators in, working with the big three, which is T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon, to figure out where they need help. If we need to provide them fuel, we'll provide them fuel for their generators. Whatever it is that they need to get those back up and running temporarily, we're going to step in and do that. We have the ability to do that. We're ready to do it.
Question for the governor. I know last time we talked about those Tiger dams. Did you deploy any of them? And did they work?
Yeah, we deployed them. How many? A bunch of counties, right? This time.
Yes, sir. I think we did over 45 missions.
Yeah, we did 45 different missions, and I think they worked pretty much every time, right? Yeah, they did. It's good. I mean, it's the type of thing. Now, this storm was not as much of a surge event as Helene was. Now, there was some surge, certainly here in Sarasota, Charlotte. The Tampa area was not. They got their water from the rain. But, I mean, this isn't our Tiger Dam, but like, Tampa General, they put up, it works. It really does work. So the question for us is yes, that works. We obviously used it. Is there a broader application to those Tiger dams? Some of them it's not cheap to do. Certainly for critical infrastructure, if you can do that, protect it, and then not have anything happen, that's going to be a really big deal. So when you're talking about like the substations, fire station, things that like really are critical, I think it's good. But I think it may also have application for residential. So after Helene, we were talking about, is there ways we can find, maybe some neighborhoods that are in flood-prone areas that are more modest means and offer some and see how it works. This storm came on us a little quicker, too quick for us to have necessarily done that, but I do think we're gonna utilize Tiger dams going forward.
For FEMA, with the barrier islands, how will residents and businesses make double FEMA claims? Because we know we saw a surge and potentially wind impacts now.
Yeah, so it's a great question. And so if somebody has had impacts from both Helene as well as Milton, I actually need them to apply for both scenarios, for both of those incidents, because they will be eligible for different funding and additional funding as a result of having double damages. And so make sure they apply for both. The caution that I give is making sure that as people are applying for one, that they're listing the dates as it relates to that one, because what we will see is we will see some bounce back, and we'll have to get more information if you apply for Milton but you're listing damages from Helene. And so we'll work with them. We're going to have people that are going to be out in the field. We call them disaster survivor assistance specialists. They're going to be out walking around helping people. We will work with Kevin Guthrie on where to establish disaster recovery centers, and we can work through that. But they should apply, if they had damages from both, they should apply for both of those.
So we're going to continue working with our local communities to get people back on their feet. I mean, obviously, I do think that this debris mission is going to be important, and it's very, I think, positive, the discussions that Deanne and Kevin have been having. So I think we're going to be in a much better spot on that going forward. And then I also just think that this is, you face two hurricanes in a couple weeks. Not easy to go through, but I've seen a lot of resilience throughout this state. I think people just... when you're a Floridian, you kind of just know, like these are things that can happen, and you roll with it, and you just kind of deal with it. So I've seen a lot of grit, I've seen a lot of determination, and I'm very confident that this area is going to bounce back very, very quickly. I mean, as much as I was looking at damage at Siesta Key, I was looking at how nice it is and how we're going to be able to get that back up and running again. I think very, very quickly. So we'll do it. We'll get it done. Now, we're not out of hurricane season yet. I don't want to scare anybody, but the reality is hurricane season goes through November. Now, usually, the further we get into October, you're less likely to have a major hurricane, but the reality is that there is some weather, so it's possible something could happen in the later part of October. I'm not saying it's likely, but it's just that is a possibility of something that could happen. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope that this one wouldn't happen because we knew Helene was a lot to deal with. But regardless, we'll always hope for the best, but we will be prepared. So I want to thank everybody who's been involved in the effort. If you had 4 million power outages, you're talking about that would probably be 6 weeks, to be able to do that. I think you're going to be impressed with what these guys do, and they came from